Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. And over the weekend, there's been a lot of talk about Halo Infinite. Those Halo Infinite tech previews started to go live, and people seem to be very impressed by what they've shown so far. The multiplayer portion of Halo Infinite in specific looks to be exceptional, so there's a lot of excitement for Halo Infinite right now, and for good reason. I myself personally cannot wait for Halo Infinite, but unfortunately, because of that Halo Infinite tech preview, a big leak might be going around that you might possibly want to avoid, so we will talk about how that leak happened and what you should do to proceed with caution going forward. Now, on the other side of things, we also have some Nintendo news, as Nintendo themselves posted a warning about the Nintendo Switch OLED that has some fans a little concerned. Though once I started to read into this, I don't really think that there should be much of a reason for concern, and I will explain exactly why here in just a bit. To start today off, though, we're actually going to take a look at a game that's really being overlooked right now, and this is a Steam and Google Stadia game, actually, and that would be Grime. Now, Grime is this Souls-like Metroidvania-style game that released today, and you can go pick it up on Steam or Google Stadia right now. But chances are you might not have actually heard about this game so far. We did talk about this on the channel a few weeks ago, but because it did release today and reviews are starting to go out right now, I thought I would just quickly go over it once again. While this game doesn't really rank on Metacritic right now, and that just kind of shows you how overlooked this game currently is, the reviews that have been going out so far have been glowing on just how good this game is. The combat apparently is very good, as you would expect with a Souls-like game. It's kind of got a strangeness to it, and I've heard some people kind of compare it to Oddworld, which I personally really like myself. But yes, reviews so far have been absolutely glowing about it, and even if you go look at the Steam reviews, as of this recording, 96% of all the reviews actually recommend this game, which goes to show you this might be yet another really good Metroidvania. It's really interesting to me just how many of these Metroidvanias have been popping up in recent years, and for that matter, we've been getting some really high-quality Metroidvanias, and it looks like Grime might be another one of those games. So if you haven't heard about this game already, well, you can now check it out over on Steam and Google Stadia. Though I know a lot of you all probably are wondering if this will eventually head over to consoles. We unfortunately haven't heard anything about that just yet, but hopefully it does, because it really does look absolutely excellent. For the time being, though, and I'm just going to go and throw this out there, but I feel like Grime in specific would be perfect to play on that Steam Deck. Yeah, I'm kind of already thinking about the Steam Deck well before I got that thing in my hands, but yeah, I'm really excited for that as well. And next up, we need to talk about PlayStation Now, because they just announced the August lineup of games, and you know what? PlayStation has done a much better job here recently with these PlayStation Now lineups. I mean, if you take a look at July, you got Red Dead Redemption 2, Neo 2, and then Judgment, which are all really good games. And now in August, you get Nier Automata, Ghost Runner, and Undertale. Again, all three of these are really good games. Now, they're not necessarily big blockbuster titles that went on to sell like 10, 20 million copies, but each one of these games are a lot of fun, and actually, in Nier Automata's case, I actually think is just a flat-out masterpiece. Yes, Nier Automata, I really do believe is that good. Nier has a great story, it's got good characters, it's this fascinating, interesting world, it's got a kind of a strangeness to it, but such an exceptional experience. And when it comes to the music, I legitimately believe it has some of the best music in video games, period. Like, Nier Automata is flat out amazing. So, if you haven't already checked out that game, and if you do have PlayStation Now, you absolutely need to check out Nier Automata. And then Ghost Runner is a kind of an overlooked game that released last year. It kind of plays similar to something like Mirror's Edge, but with more of a focus on melee-driven combat. It's an interesting combo and something that I would definitely recommend. And then, of course, you have Undertale, which probably has one of the most interesting cult followings I've seen in gaming. But it is legitimately a really good turn-based retro-style JRPG. Its visuals are very clearly inspired by something like Earthbound, but again, it is a very good RPG. So, when you look at it, yeah, PlayStation Now has another really good month of games. But, and there's always this asterisk when it comes to PlayStation Now, but you have to read the fine print. This is something that I complain about month in and month out. They have really been improving with their lineups here recently, but if you look closely at the fine print, you'll notice that Nier Automata will only be available in PlayStation Now for 3 months. And that just seems like it's not enough time. It seems like with PlayStation Now, a lot of the bigger games that comes to the service is only available for 3 or so months. And I really think they need to extend that to at the very least 6 months, or preferably an entire year. I think that would be much more fitting for a subscription service, because with a subscription service, gamers aren't going to be able to play every single game that goes into a subscription service. Games are a real time investment. You just don't have the time to play all these games. So I really would like to see them be able to extend that time frame a little bit longer than 3 months. But even then, this is still a really good month of games for PlayStation Now. At the very least, PlayStation Now is definitely improving, and that's really good to see. Moving on though, one thing that fans are really excited about right now is Halo Infinite. The Halo Infinite tech preview went out over the weekend, and I mean, people are raving how good this tech preview is. The multiplayer so far seems exceptional, and that really just ramps up the excitement even more for the Halo Infinite official release later this year. Hopefully we get an official release date here soon, but interestingly enough, El Analista de Bits over on YouTube did do a tech analysis for Halo Infinite. And with this tech analysis, you can see the different frame rate and resolution that each version of Halo Infinite runs with. I mean, you have to realize that Halo Infinite is running on several platforms this time. With the Xbox One, you have the Xbox One X, the Series S, the Series X, and then you also have PC with just a wide array of options over there. Now with this tech analysis though, they do focus on consoles in specific, and you can see here with the Xbox One, it runs at 1080p at 30 frames per second. That's pretty solid for the Xbox One, quite honestly. But the Xbox One X, I felt, was an interesting design choice. I do hope that there's more options with the final release, but right now, the Xbox One X version runs Halo Infinite at 4K 30 frames per second. And the thing about that is that when it comes to multiplayer, frame rate is always going to triumph over resolution, or really any graphical option. Now, speaking for myself, I love playing Overwatch on PC, and I turn down pretty much every graphical setting that I can to get my frame rate to run a stable 144 frames per second. It is an incredibly important thing to have a buttery smooth frame rate, as it offers better response time. And we'll kind of get back into that here in just a moment, but with the One X, I do hope they have another option that allows 1080p at 60 frames per second, because the One X really is capable of doing that. Now with the Xbox Series consoles though, you're pretty much set to go with the Xbox Series S version running at 120 frames per second at 1080p resolution. This is going to be such a jump over last generation consoles. The Xbox Series S just continues to show how impressive it is, and this is a very big deal for Halo Infinite. Now with the Xbox Series X version though, you can take things just a step beyond that, with running at 4K resolution at 120 frames per second. Now I'm just going to go back to saying what I said a moment ago with Overwatch. Regardless of resolution, as long as you can get a smooth 120 frames per second, then that is actually a big inclusion. And yeah, it just kind of shows you they did a great job with the Xbox Series S and Series X edition. There does seem to be some drops here and there, but nothing that's really noticeable. And yeah, this is just absolutely exceptional for competitive play. And this kind of gets me back into these next generation consoles versus the Xbox One. Like I said before, frame rate is incredibly important in competitive multiplayer games, so you are going to be at a bit of a disadvantage playing on the Xbox One at 30 frames per second. Higher frame rate does allow for better overall response time, so competitively you will be at a bit of a disadvantage playing on the Xbox One platforms. Though at the very least, yes, you will be able to play Halo Infinite, but clearly the Xbox Series is going to be the way to play Halo Infinite on consoles going forward. Now, if you are a big fan of Halo's competitive multiplayer, though, and you take that stuff serious, well, then this might be a really good reason to buy into the Xbox Series as soon as possible. And whether you get the Xbox Series S or the Series X, it looks like both will be able to run at 120 frames per second, so you can't really go wrong either way. Now, even though we've gotten great news for Halo Infinite's performance over on consoles, specifically with the Xbox Series S and X, unfortunately, because of this Halo Infinite tech preview, some campaign-related information may have found its way online. And this is something that Halo fans are going to have to really approach cautiously from this point forward. Yes, there might be spoilers that makes their way online over the next couple months before Halo Infinite's release, and you don't have to worry about me talking about that on my channel or anything like that. I'm definitely not going to talk about any kind of spoiler-related information for Halo or really any other game for that matter. But with that said, you might want to steer clear of social media interactions with Halo Infinite. Anytime that you see Halo Infinite from this point forward talked about on Twitter or wherever, I would avoid looking at the comments for that post. So just kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, let's just go and take a look at what happened here. So Joseph Staten took to Twitter to say this: "Hey folks, heads up. We unintentionally included a small number of Halo Infinite campaign files in the tech preview build. Unfortunately, these files contain spoilers. Leaks like this are painful for the devs team and can ruin the campaign experience for everyone. So please keep your eyes peeled for spoilers and don't spread them if you see them." So there you have it. Yes, it does look like Halo Infinite spoilers might go up online shortly before that official release. And like I said, just kind of avoid social media interactions. I think you'll, for the most part, be pretty good. This is something that modern gamers have had to specifically deal with in recent years. We saw the same thing happen with Resident Evil Village, as well as The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2 got hit pretty hard by it because of how that story plays out. It just kind of made its way online and people just would not shut up about it. So hopefully that doesn't happen with Halo Infinite. But because there's so much hype surrounding Halo Infinite, and it's easily one of the most anticipated games that's releasing this year, especially over on Xbox, yeah, there's going to be a lot of talk about this game moving forward. And again, just kind of be cautious with Halo Infinite related topics. Now, before I go, we do need to talk about the Nintendo Switch OLED. The Nintendo Switch OLED, of course, releases on October 8th later of this year. And yeah, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this console, mainly because of the price. A lot of people don't think that this device should be $350, and I'm not really going to argue against that, but the big draw for this specific console is its OLED screen. An OLED screen is a pretty nice upgrade over the LCD that the Switch currently has, but anytime you talk about OLED screens, there's always that conversation about burn-in. Now, if you don't know what burn-in is, it's basically a ghost image on your screen that just won't go away. Usually this is caused by some static logo that was on your screen for too long, and let's say you watch a lot of news and then the news channel just has that one static logo there constantly. Well, sometimes that logo just won't go away. You'll see a slight image in the background, which is why they refer to it as a ghost image. Now, burn-in isn't exclusive to OLED TVs, and you can have this on other screens as well, but OLED seems to be a little bit more susceptible to this. Though, over the years, this really hasn't been a big problem, and that's why I'm kind of surprised by this particular topic, because Nintendo actually did issue a warning to CNET when asked about this particular subject. And Nintendo Life did pick this up, and they posted over on Twitter, and the response was pretty surprising to me because people were just like, they're very, very concerned about, Switch OLED burn-in. But let's just go and take a look at what Nintendo had to say. "We've designed the OLED screen to aim for longevity as much as possible, but OLED displays can experience image retention if subjected to static visuals over a long period of time. However, users can take preventative measures to preserve the screen by utilizing features including in the Nintendo Switch systems by default, such as auto brightness function to prevent the screen from getting too bright, and the auto sleep function to go into auto sleep mode after short periods of time." So they did kind of issue a warning here with OLED burn-in, which is actually a smart thing. Companies always have to cover themselves in case something does happen to a device that a customer does buy. They don't want to get into any kind of trouble or anything like that. But the response to this warning was kind of surprising to me, like I said before, because fans are very concerned about this and thinking that Nintendo made some type of console that has no longevity in it and is just going to get burned in. And that's not really how this type of stuff works. I do have an OLED TV myself, as well as 2 original PlayStation Vitas, which of course does have OLED screens. And now I can just speak for myself, but I've never had a problem with burn-in. And most people that I've talked to that does have OLED devices, they don't have these issues either. In fact, from all of the research that I've done on this particular topic, OLED burn-in is a very rare thing, especially with all the technology that they've incorporated into devices today that keeps this type of stuff from happening. So do keep that in mind, and really if you do take care of your devices, then more than likely you're not going to have a problem with burn-in. And what that means is that when you step away from your Switch, just put it in sleep mode, turn it off or whatever, and you won't have this problem of just this static image just sitting there for hours at a time. So really, when I hear this statement, I don't think there should be any kind of major concern with Switch OLED burn-in. Yes, of course, you always have to take precautions, but as far as major concern, because the technology incorporated in a lot of these devices that use OLED now today, it's very unlikely that you actually get any type of burn-in. Now, there's still that controversy around the Switch OLED's price and everything, and I completely understand that, and you can kind of make the decision yourself if the price is worth it to you. But in this particular situation with burn-in, again, I don't think that this is a major concern or anything like that. And onto the poll today. It's officially August now, and it's kind of hard to believe it's already August, but we're going to go and take a look at the most anticipated games for the month. So I asked you all, of course, what new August game are you most looking forward to? And you all made me very, very happy here by voting Psychonauts 2. For those who follow this channel, probably know that I am absolutely ecstatic about Psychonauts 2. Been waiting for this for years and years, as I love the original game and cannot wait for Psychonauts 2 to release on August 25th. And remember, that game launches directly into Xbox Game Pass, which is just flat out amazing. And for that matter, if you haven't played the original Psychonauts, that game is also on Xbox Game Pass, and I would highly recommend checking that out. A few weeks ago, I did post a poll asking how many of you all actually played the original Psychonauts, and most of you all, unfortunately, very sadly said that you had not played the original game. So do keep in mind that that original is available in Xbox Game Pass, and I cannot recommend that game enough. It has aged incredibly well. I will say, though, that I'm really happy to see that a lot more of you all are going to try Psychonauts 2 when it does release. That makes me personally very happy. Now, second place here was actually Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, which is actually quite impressive because this is a re-release of a game that released just last year. It does have that Ghost of Tsushima expansion, but very impressively, it did take that number 2 spot at 16%. Obviously, Ghost of Tsushima was a great game, and yeah, there's going to be some excitement for that expansion, especially if you're playing the PlayStation 5 version. Now, I will say that it does seem like some of you all might be sleeping on Baldo the Guardian Owls. This game actually does look really good. It's like this combination of a Zelda-like experience with a Studio Ghibli art style, and it just looks superb. I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes a big sleeper hit when it does release. Now, looking through the comments, quite a few of you also mentioned No More Heroes 3, which releases on the Nintendo Switch this month. That's quite a weird and beloved franchise as well, so hopefully you all really enjoy No More Heroes 3 when it releases. But I think when you just kind of look at things, you can kind of see that this month is filled with these really interesting and, for the most part, either smaller or overlooked titles. And I personally love that myself. I'm not somebody who just needs big AAA games, but I really like seeing some of these smaller and AA games just shine, and I think we might see that in the month of August. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.